And that was today's Daily Ukraine Report here on the Darren Mann Breakfast Show on Bay FM 107.9. Many thanks, Lionel de Lange, crossing to us from the front line in the war zone that is Ukraine, as he does each and every morning while he rends aid to animals abandoned, traumatized, and otherwise hurt and injured by that nasty war. It was early August when I got the invitation to volunteer with an aid organization in Ukraine. I'd been doing a daily Ukraine report on my radio show on Bay FM, live crossings each morning from Lionel de Lange of the Warriors of Wildlife, who, despite their name, were focusing on bringing aid to domestic animals that had been left abandoned, injured, and traumatized by the war. From these crossings grew a conversation about me traveling to Ukraine and doing my breakfast show from the Ukrainian Frontline. It would be a first for South African radio and an exciting opportunity for me to get my hands dirty and physically make a contribution to a cause that lay very close to my heart. The city we'd be servicing, one of the most dangerous on earth right now, Kherson. Occupied by the Russians for about 7 months during the early part of the war, before being retaken by Ukraine, and now the two forces are separated by just the width of the Dnipro River. The city is subject to daily drone attacks that have become known as the human safari, with civilians as well as the military being targeted. At night, the missiles fly in both directions. Air raid sirens are a regular feature. I needed official permission from the military command to be granted entry into Kherson. Having got that, I was fitted for a flak jacket and a helmet, and my blood group velcroed onto my body armor. I think that's when it dawned on me this wasn't a glorified camping trip I was going on. This was the real deal.
There, that's on the other side of that water, that's the Russians.
Okay, so we're about 300 meters away from the Russian positions. They were on the other side of that water that you just saw behind us. Naturally, we're going in the opposite direction.
Oh. Look at this. This is a maritime university. Look at the big cracks in the walls from the shelling. You see there, look how the whole building is split. You see that?
I see that.
Here's the second part of the university. You can see it actually burned down. You can see the roof. Coming up on the right is the governor of this oblast. Oblast is province. That's his. The supermarket that we went to, which is now, they've shut it down. They'll only reopen on Monday because the shelling was so heavy here.
Visible evidence of the conflict is everywhere, from rusted and bust-up military vehicles to buildings pockmarked by bullets and shrapnel, windows boarded up. Still other buildings and facilities completely blown apart and now deserted. There are soldiers all round, checkpoints, curfews, and more blown-up buildings. This used to be one of the largest shopping malls in Ukraine, in Kherson. Bombed a couple of years ago. Very post-apocalyptic kind of vibe about it. Massive. Now obviously deserted, blown apart, no longer functional. Lionel de Lange is a South African who's been resident in Ukraine for about 14 years. Long active in animal aid, he rescued and repatriated as many as 41 lions, 17 bears, 8 wolves and a tiger, all from captivity in Ukraine, before turning his attention to the plight of domestic dogs and cats affected by the war. I joined him at his Warriors of Wildlife base in the town of Bashtanka, about 100 kilometers north of Kherson. From here, we undertook at least 3 visits per week into the Frontline city, and we also serviced some of these surrounding villages. Food and water, not only for animals, but humans too. There literally is no running water in some places. Right, so this is the main road into, what's the name of the village, Lionel?
Novi Jitia.
Novi Jitia, which is New Jitia.
And then we're picking up 3 cats and a dog to sterilize them, and then I would have sterilized the whole village.
Okay, I hope you got that. 3 cats and dogs being picked up for the outward journey. They're going to be sterilized, and once they're done, every single cat and dog in this village will have been sterilized. Nice road, eh? Okay, this is the village. Population? 40, 50?
She said it's about 10.
Population about 10. Wherever possible, sterilizations and vaccinations were facilitated, as well as were any other medical procedures the animals might need. Well, this is the vet that we've brought the cats and the dog in to be sterilized in Mykolaiv. We've just taken them through and put them in a nice quiet area. You see them over there. And the vet's going to take care of them, and we'll take them back to their village later today. All right.
Last one, fast asleep.
3.5 hours later, fast asleep. The other 3 are in the vehicle already, on their way back home. Sterilized, done. This is where donation money goes to. The vet is a friend, good friendship price, but it doesn't come for free. Thanks to everyone who donated. Well, this is the homecoming hours later. 3 cats, 1 dog. They've all been sterilized, returning home. The people Warriors of Wildlife bring aid to in Kherson include Vlada. She personally cares for almost 30 stray dogs and cats in her immediate neighborhood, and then also makes daily trips to various other sites in Kherson where she sees that animals are cared for. Okay, so here we are in Kherson. We're at Lada's house, and she has got a lot of stray cats and dogs that she looks after. And it's to her that we're delivering food to. There are a number of other places like this as well. These people are amazing. They don't have a lot themselves, but they take in the animals that have been left stray as a result of the war and make sure that they're fed. Look at Lada's house. She's allowing me to take photographs and videos. Amazing work that they do.
She's very scared. Oh, did you hear that?
Tell me the story, yeah.
So, his owner was killed by a Shahed drone attack. So Vlada has taken the little boy in.
He's terrified.
You can see he's still
He
very
is
scared.
absolutely terrified. She even feeds the pigeons in the area. This is her neighborhood. You can check out the damage. Some neighbors have left, some neighbors have been killed, but life in the city goes on. Shops function, petrol stations function. People just adapt. They don't leave. Here she is, Vlada, on another one of her stops. You can hear the animals. The owner of this house has died. He was killed in a strike, which happened on a supermarket which is right next door. Right next door to his house, there you go. That's the supermarket that was hit. And you got to wonder what would happen to these animals if it wasn't for Vlada looking after them. In most cases, the dogs and cats that Vlada looks after are confined to yards like this one. And while that may not seem ideal, at least they are safe and fed, and they can be sterilized. The alternative is a life on the streets where they'd be vulnerable to any eventuality. Hey, beautiful. Hello, you. Hello, you. These are terrible conditions, but they get looked after. Look, there's fresh water. There's food every day. Thanks to generous donors, and thanks to people like Vlada. She crisscrosses the city every single day. In addition to the animals she looks after at her own home, she visits these. Just an example of what you find in Kherson. That is the rail station, which has now been boarded up as a result of it having been shelled and the tracks not being usable. But all over the city, you find dogs. We find dogs that are stray, that are just wandering the streets. As you can see, what have we got here? Easily a dozen, just in the vicinity of this street corner. They're all scared, they're all frightened, they've all been brutalized, and they all need food, and thankfully there are some people who do look after them. And these are the people that we bring the food that's donated to Warriors of Wildlife and similar organizations. We bring food to these people so that they can feed these animals. Why aren't organizations looking after them? This is an active war zone. It's very low down on the authorities' priority lists. They're looking after people firstly.
Built a special cat place here for them.
They've created some safe space of sorts for people. Another regular recipient of aid is Vasya. This incredible gentleman is almost 80 years old and takes care of more than 20 stray dogs and cats on his block. He lives on his own in a home without heating, water, or electricity, but despite this, has dedicated himself to the welfare of his charges and supplements what he receives from Warriors of Wildlife with any leftovers he can find or scrounge. These he then cooks over a fire. To some of the dogs that have been abandoned or been left stray as a result of the war. This is in Bashtanka.
Oh, look at the 3 puppies.
This old gentleman that you see now is bringing these 3 puppies out to us. He collects food for them and looks after them on a daily basis. All these stray animals. I'll show you what he does. We've got him right next to a small little rubbish tip. And what he does every day is he goes into these rubbish bins and he finds leftover food, cleans up what he can, and feeds the strays in the area, which, as you can see, there's quite a few of. And these are some of the dogs that Lionel collects food aid for and then brings to them on as often a basis as he can. It's quite sad that there are animals like this, but there are people who are helping. And that's got to be a good news story. Then we have Igor, also in Kherson, also committed to the welfare of the strays in his neighborhood. And there are many other such fine people as well. All right, this is Igor. He's also in Kherson, resident here, and looking after a group of dogs that have been left stray in his neighborhood. Usually there's about 10, he tells me. I can just see 4 or 5 at the moment, but food aid, courtesy of donors, being brought into him as well so he can feed them.
Show you photographs. This whole back was raw. It was like he had a flea allergy, but there were ticks burrowed into his skin, and then I fixed it for you. Hey. Come on. We're gonna put this for you.
Okay, so in basically 2 hours we've emptied the entire back of the Amarok of all the dog and cat food that we had.
I just asked you if that's a good brand. Mokri?
Да, мокрую кашку подмешиваем. Мокрый надо, да.
So, in addition to feeding the stray animals in her neighborhood, what this lady's also done is she started building kennels for them in the wasteland across from her apartment block, so that they've got shelter in the evenings. We'll take a look at some of those. Becomes more important because this area, of course, in winter gets snow. So in addition to feeding all the strays in the area, she has also started building shelters for them. And I'll try and get a glimpse of some of these strays. You'll see that they've got clips in their ears, some of them. What that indicates is that they have been sterilized.
Even handyman work is undertaken to supplement the food and medical assistance delivered by Warriors of Wildlife. We need more people like this in the world. That's something that a lot of people have said to me when on the topic of my mission to Ukraine. I know they mean well, but I keep finding myself wanting to say in response, well then, be one of those people. And I'm not being glib or flippant when I say that. If that's what you think, then be one of those people. You can, you really can. It doesn't mean you have to go to Ukraine or don a Kevlar vest. It just means you have to do what you can, where you are, with what you've got. Some of us have got money, some of us have got time, others have skills, others have a contact base. If you truly want to contribute, then you can do so immediately, right now, by just applying whatever it is that you're able to bring to the party. I promise you, many tiny individual efforts will turn into a mighty movement, and it will make a difference. And you'll inspire other people too, even if you just share the message. And not to be too opportunistic, but I hope no one minds if I share the bank details for Warriors of Wildlife with you at the end of the video, just in case you'd like to make a little or big contribution to support their work. In addition to the work that they do in Ukraine, Warriors of Wildlife also run the Simbonga Game Reserve, which is on the banks of the Gamtoos River in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. And it's to hear that many of the big cats they've rescued from Ukraine have been relocated. I can personally assure you that every cent raised goes towards the animals. There's no travel, no accommodation, no admin fees or lavish lifestyle that gets funded. Lionel lives in a modest 2-bedroom house in the town of Bashtanka that he doesn't have to pay rent on. He and the volunteers wash, cook, clean and see to all repairs and maintenance themselves. I don't know when last he bought new clothes. No entertainment budget is indulged. I've lived with them, and I can assure you, whatever you donate will be money well spent. And many hard-working organizations, and more importantly, animals, as well as the odd human, will benefit greatly as a result. All right, on the homeward stretch, back to Bucharest and back to South Africa after a month in Ukraine. We're going through Vinograd. Take a look at this. My month on the front line came to an end on a Saturday morning. On my 1,200-kilometer road trip to Bucharest to catch a flight back to South Africa, we passed through the village of Vinograd, just to witness the sobering sight of residents lining the main road with flags and flowers, waiting to show their respects to another fallen soldier about to be buried. Ukraine has it in common that each village, town and city in the country has an avenue of heroes just like this one. Photographs, flowers and flags, paying honor and homage to every one of their sons and daughters who've made the ultimate sacrifice. I could leave. The animals and residents have to stay behind. This is their current reality.